Hi again. Let's have a look at what happens before we go further. If I'm looking at what we learnt in the last video, two negatives when you're dividing becomes a positive. Common sense approach, anything divided by itself goes once. So if I go 4 into 4, how many times does 4 fit into 4? It fits in once. How many times does 2 fit into 2? It fits in once. Let's have a look at the next one. So how many times does 10 fit into 10? It fits in once. But we know that the two negatives also make a positive. Let's look at this one here then. How many times does 2, let's ignore the negative, how many times does 2 fit into 6? So if we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I've got 1, 2, 2 fits into 6 3 times. Have I got two negatives that make a positive? And the obvious answer is no. So this, Paul, is like a lonesome negative. It's all lonely. So the poor lonesome negative stays there. Now, do these two negatives make a positive? No. This is talking about we go down 1. So if I start at minus 2, negative 2, and I go down 1. So if I start at negative 2, and I go down 1, where do I end up at? Minus 3. So do those two negatives make a positive? And the answer is no, they just stay negative. If I started at minus 6 and I went up 2, remember this is just talking about up 2. So I go down here to minus 6. If I go up 2, I'm starting at minus 6 and I end up at minus 4. If it was minus 6 degrees this morning, which would be colder than it ever gets here in my city, and it went up 2, they're getting warmer, so the numbers go upwards, and we end up at a minus 4. If I go back to multiplication, 4 times 1, I'm ignoring the negative basically just to do the calculation. Oh, I didn't write that answer down. So that ends up at minus 4. Minus 6 plus 2 is minus 4. 4 ones are 4. Have I got a lonesome negative? Yes, so it stays a negative. How many times does 1 fit into 3? Fits in 3 times. How many negatives have I got? 1 lonesome negative. So again, there's our lonely or our lonesome, our lonely negative. One last example, just to go again. How many times does 2 fit into 4? 2 fits into 4 once, fits in twice. So I've got 2 of those. I've got 1 lonesome negative, so that becomes also a negative. So negative 2. What follows on from this is when we start to do more with addition and subtraction, but for the moment there's just a chance to get to hopefully look at it and start to see the simple parts. 2 negatives when we're dividing, 2 negatives when we're dividing is a positive. 2 negatives if we had it when we're multiplying is a positive. But when we're just going minus 2 minus another 1, we're just going down 1, we're still as negative 3. Thanks.